So you've got an amazing idea for a smart gadget, a robot, or some kind of awesome electronics project. You know that before you can do anything, you have to answer one huge question first.
Right. Every project needs a brain to make it all work. But here's the thing, there are a ton of options out there. Today, we're going to cut through the noise and look at two of the biggest names in the game, the ESP32 and the Raspberry Pi. The goal? To help you figure out which one is the perfect brain for the job you have in mind.
I want you to think about this like you're hiring for a job. On one side, you've got the ESP32. This is your focused specialist, an absolute master of one specific craft. And on the other side, the Raspberry Pi. This is your versatile generalist, the one who can wear a bunch of different hats. Both are fantastic, but they are built for totally different kinds of work.
Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty of specs like speed or memory, we have to talk about what these things fundamentally are. And believe me, getting this part right is the key to this whole comparison. First up, the ESP32. It's a microcontroller. Its entire reason for existing is to control stuff. Blinking lights, reading data from a sensor, making a motor spin. It's laser focused on doing one job and doing it really, really well. Now, the Raspberry Pi, that's a whole different beast. It's a single board computer. And the word to focus on there is computer. This is a tiny but complete computer. It runs a full operating system, usually Linux. It can browse the web, run complex software, pretty much anything your desktop can do, just, a lot smaller. And this table right here just lays it all out. The ESP32 is a microcontroller for controlling hardware. It doesn't need an OS. Your code runs right on the chip, what they call bare metal, so it turns on instantly. The Pi, on the other hand, is a mini computer. It has to boot up its whole operating system, just like your laptop does. So here's the big takeaway. One is made for direct, instant control, and the other is for complex computing. All right, so now that we know who our candidates are, let's do this. Let's put their resumes side by side and see how they really stack up in a head-to-head spec showdown. Well, when you talk about raw, brute force processing power, this isn't even a contest. I mean, look at this. The Raspberry Pi has a way faster processor, and we're measuring its RAM in gigabytes. The ESP32, its RAM is measured in kilobytes. That's a difference of like 1,000 times more RAM. It's wild. Yeah. To put it another way, the Raspberry Pi isn't just a little more powerful. It's playing in a completely different league. We're talking somewhere between 10 and 50 times more powerful. This is a machine built for the heavy lifting, like running intense software or even artificial intelligence models. But, and this is a huge but, this is where the whole story just flips on its head. Let's talk about power. The ESP32 barely sips electricity. It uses a tiny, tiny amount of energy. The Raspberry Pi, with that big, powerful brain, it's thirsty, really thirsty. And that changes everything if your project needs to be portable. And here's the bottom line on that. Because of its super efficient deep sleep mode, you can have an ESP32 running a remote sensor project for weeks, sometimes even months, on a single small battery. You try that with a Raspberry Pi, you'd be lucky to get a few hours out of that same battery. Okay, so a brain is pretty useless if it can't actually talk to the outside world, right? So let's see how these two compare when it comes to controlling other electronics and getting online. When it comes to getting your hands dirty and directly talking to sensors and motors, the ESP32 is the undisputed champion. It has more pins for input and output, it can read analog signals right out of the box, and, this is the big one, it gives you excellent real-time control. Because there's no operating system in the way, it can react to a signal with perfect timing. And for things like robotics, that is absolutely critical. So yeah, the verdict from our research is crystal clear on this one. If your project is all about reading sensors and controlling other little bits of hardware, the ESP32 is definitely the specialist you want to hire. But when we talk about connecting like a regular computer, that's where the Raspberry Pi really gets to flex. Sure, both have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, which is great, but the Pi also gives you all the standard stuff you'd expect. An Ethernet port for a wired connection, USB ports for a keyboard or a flash drive, and an HDMI port to plug it right into a monitor. So, we've looked at the specs, we get the fundamental differences. Now we get to the most important question. How do you take all this and pick the right tool for your specific project? You hire the ESP32, our specialist, when your project is all about sensing the world and efficiently controlling things. We're talking about smart sensors that have to survive on a battery for a year, simple home automation gadgets, wearables, or the dedicated controllers that handle the motors in a robot. And you hire the Raspberry Pi, our generalist, when your project needs serious computational muscle. This is what you pick for running AI models, hosting a website, using a camera for computer vision, or acting as the high-level brain for a complex robot that tells other controllers, maybe even an ESP32, what to do.
You know, if there is only one single thing you remember from all of this, I want it to be this next idea. This whole complex comparison, it really just boils down to one simple, powerful concept. Let that sink in for a sec. The ESP32 is for direct, physical control. It flips the switches, reads the values, and reacts instantly. The Raspberry Pi is for understanding. It crunches the data, runs the complex logic, and makes sense of all the information those sensors are gathering. So now that you know how to pick the right brain for the job, there's really only one question left, isn't there? What are you gonna build? Are you gonna make something that controls the world or something that understands it? The choice is all yours.